In this video, we will be replacing ball joints in this 2003 Toyota Camry. To prep this vehicle, I have installed wheel chocks behind the rear tires. I have applied the parking brake. I have jacked the vehicle up and supported the front end with safety stands, and I have removed the wheel. On my wheel assembly, I'm going to be focusing my attention towards the bottom back side. And if we take a look, we can see our ball joint. This is the piece that we will be replacing. And if we take a little bit closer look, we can see that the lowermost portion is held on by 2 nuts and 1 bolt. And if I take a look at my new component, I can see where the 2 nuts and 1 bolt connect up with this component. On the other side then, I have a castle nut. We'll take a look on the vehicle and see that. And if I take a look in there, I can see that castle nut. It looks pretty rusty. And taking a look from the other direction, I can get a little clearer view. Now this castle nut does have a cotter pin on it that will need to be possibly removed. But before we attempt to remove these, I will be spraying them with Amsoil metal protector. This will act as a penetrating oil and aid in the removal process. I'm going to begin with a pair of needle nose pliers to see if I can work that cotter pin out. We'll see if we can give it a couple gentle taps. So that's in there really good. So I'm going to bend these back and forth until they break off. The hope is that they break off as far in as possible. I'm then going to come back with a punch and work those out. And this castle nut then is a 19 millimeter, and we'll go ahead and loosen that up. And for right now, I'm going to leave it threaded on just by a few threads. And I'm going to shift my attention back over to my additional connection points. And here we have 3 17 millimeter bolts. And before I remove that last bolt, I'm going to support my braking assembly with a jack just so I can better control the amount of movement it has. And then we can jump back over to that castle nut. Now I am loose, but I can't quite get that off because my axle shaft is in the way. Next we can separate the ball joint from the control arm and work that around it. And using a pickle fork with the biggest hammer that we can find, we can work that out. And I always like to compare my new component with my old component to make sure that they look the same. These are looking good. And before installing this, I'm going to add just a little bit of Amsoil's heavy-duty metal protector. This will help prevent corrosion down the road. Our new ball joint can then be reinstalled, and we can start the castle nut by hand first, making sure that we don't cross thread it. We can come back then with a wrench and snug that down. And there is a high probability that you will have to slightly over torque this so that the hole for the cotter pin lines up with our castle nut. And using a needle nose pliers, we can bend that cotter pin to lock it in. And after that, we can work our mounting bolts onto our control arm. This will take a little bit of work to get that lined up. And these will be torqued to 55 foot-pounds. And at this point, we can clean up and put everything back together, and this repair is complete.